In Escape from Tarkov, duffel bags are one of the most commonly looted items by players. More often than not, these will be looted if someone walks by them, as they can contain some high value loot. I decided it was time to find out if duffel bags were actually worth looting, as I had always taught new players that they were always worth looting. As a seasoned player, I was sure these duffel bags would be a consistent value that I had always counted on. For this experiment, I ran about 30 to 40 raids on reserve at nighttime to try to loot as many duffel bags as possible in each raid. This allowed me to have the most efficient methods for completing this as fast as possible. I looted 1,000 duffel bags and noted every individual item I found across each one, noted their values and drop percentages. Here's what I found. The rules I abided by for these raids are the same as my filing cabinet runs. Essentially, I didn't do any runs on scavs or on offline raids. I wanted to make sure that I had accurate live raids to ensure that my numbers would be accurate to what you could expect in your own raids. I did not count any duffel bags that could have been looted by other players. If items in the area were looted and the area seemed combed through, I skipped those bags. I counted every item I found regardless of whether I picked up the item or not. I looted 1,000 duffel bags, and here's what I found. One more thing before I go any further. Before presenting my findings, I would like to address that different maps on Tarkov do have different loot pools for duffel bags. During this experiment, I did not find a single item that was map restricted to reserve. I'm not sure if this is bugged or if their spawn chances are just much lower and can get overtaken by some of the other higher drop rate items in a very large pool of loot. If anyone has gotten any of the items that are restricted to certain maps, please comment down below and confirm that this does work properly for me. As I will with all of my looting experiments, I have provided a Google Sheet down below with all of the information and data that I collected. Please note that just because I did not get an item within the 1,000 that I looted does not mean that that item does not spawn in this lootable. The 0% rate is solely based on how many I got within the 1,000 that I looted. I would like to mention that at the time that this video is posted, I will be live over at twitch.tv/Solaris. We'll be going over, I think, 1,000 PCs tonight when I'm streaming. We should hopefully be completing the 1,000 PCs, or at least getting somewhat close. I will also be working on toolboxes in the middle of that, just taking a few screenshots trying to get those started as well. Here on screen, we have the first section of the barter items that I found within duffel bags. Some of the ones that I did want to mention, the bolts had a very high drop chance compared to other items that I found. Early wipe especially, the bolts are very, very valuable. And then later in wipe, you can use these to make a lot of different cases that you need later on in the wipe. Another item I wanted to mention was the car battery. I did find 3 of these across 1,000. Now, I don't think that it's enough for you to be specifically looting only duffel bags to find your car batteries. However, I did want to note them because they are a big task item that a lot of people struggle to find. The last one that I wanted to mention on this page is the fuel conditioner. I found 12 of them. I very consistently found these items about 1 every 100 duffels that I looted. So to get the 4 that you need, you should have to loot about 400 duffels. This was pretty easy. If you get really good RNG, you might get them in about 350 duffels. But I consistently got them in about 100 duffels each. Now we have the second part of the barter items that I found. Some of the big ones on here is the GP coin. I found them pretty consistently. A lot of the gunpowders actually popped up more than you would expect. The Marlboro cigarettes, the Marlboro cigarettes actually popped up a lot. If you're looking for your cigarettes and you're not hitting ration crates, duffel bags may not be a bad option for you. Somebody made a comment in one of the previous videos about how pliers were one of the most common dropped items in duffel bags. They actually did have a pretty high drop rate, so I thought that it was funny that we did end up finding those items pretty consistently. So shout out to whoever made that comment. So finally, we have the last page of the barter items that I found here. The really big one here again was just along with the bolts, the screw nuts. We found a ton of these in duffel bags. This is probably one of the best ways, other than maybe the toolboxes, to find the bolts and the screw nuts. So I definitely recommend picking those up and looting them for those bolts and screw nuts if those are something that you're looking for. We did find a decent amount of all of the cigarettes. The Wilsons were the only ones that we did not find very much in the duffel bags. So if you are looking for those cigarettes, again, I recommend hitting the duffel bags. You probably won't find your Wilsons. You probably need to go to your ration crates for those, or, you know, look around. I find those in like loose loot a lot more often. However, I would not be looking in duffels for the Wilsons. Their drop rate in the duffels is much lower than the other cigarettes, so I would be wary of that. And then the final item on this page is the tube of Poxaram. I actually got a decent drop rate on that, and if you're trying to collect them to trade in for a labs card, then this might be a good way for you to try to, you know, grab an extra one here and there while you're looting around the map normally. With the clothes that I found in the duffel bags, there weren't many crazy things that I found. However, I did want to point out that I did find the Pestley Plague Mask 3 times in these duffel bags. So if you are searching for Pestley Plague Mask, this might be a good thing to add to your runs, searching for it, because you might find one in one of these duffel bags. I found, I think, 3 of them across the entire run. So you know, around 350, you can probably find one. I was not able to make a chart for the medical items that I did find. However, the big one here was that I found 9 Saluas. So if you are early game and you are looking for those Saluas and you're walking past the duffel bag, it's definitely worth it to stop and look. About 1 in every 100 is going to have a Salua. So it's definitely worth it to stop and take a look in that duffel bag if you are looking for one of those. I didn't find any other large items. I found 1 golden star in the duffel bags. However, other than that, I found a bunch of bandages, a bunch of splints, you know, a few here and there of an item, but I found a ton of bandages, both the 1-use and the 2-use bandages. So if you're bleeding, definitely stop, take a look in a duffel bag, see if you can get a bandage out of there, because you're more than likely going to get one. You probably get 30 out of 1,000, so like 3 out of 100 bags is going to have a bandage in it. A 3% drop chance on something like that really isn't that bad in a pool of loot that is this large. So overall, the potential that I could have made off of all the duffel bags was around 14,500,000 rubles. This was about half as much as the filing cabinets I did, and 1 duffel was worth about 14,500 rubles. Even though these duffel bags were only worth about 14,500, I did find 0 graphics cards across the entire 1,000 duffel bags that I looted. Now, I would like to note, this would not significantly change the average amount that the duffel is. If the graphic cards are at 600,000, it would only change that up to about 15,000. And if they're at 800,000, it would only change them up to around 15,200. It's really not going to change the average amount that the duffel is worth. You know, they're worth looting for those potential high value items. However, most of the items you're getting out of these duffels are just not going to be that valuable. The biggest difference between the duffels and the filing cabinets is going to be a little bit of consistency. So with the filing cabinets, you could pretty much consistently find certain items. With the duffel bags, due to the large loot pool, the consistency is going to be much lower. Now, the ability to find those high ticket items is a little bit higher in those duffel bags. However, you don't have as many middle of the road items that you're finding because the loot pool is so large. You're ending up with those lower tier items more often than not. Very quickly, while I was running through these duffels, I realized that my previous thought that these were one of the better items to be looting in the game was wrong. There were about 225 of the duffels that were just completely empty. This was a major disappointment to me because that's a 0 every time, and it was just a waste of time for me looting them. This is such a high percentage of duffels to have absolutely 0 profit off of. I think the best value that you can get from duffels will be those major items that you can find, like graphics cards, LEDXs, maybe some of the military loot and stuff like that, if those items aren't bugged. I cannot prove whether or not these items are bugged at this point, only because I haven't had any confirmation that someone has gotten these items that are restricted to maps out of a duffel. I asked everyone that I have played with this wipe, and none of them could recall a time that they got any of those specified items that are restricted to maps out of a duffel at any point. One other disadvantage to the duffels that I found was that a lot of them are in more contested areas that people loot a lot more often. In addition to that, many of the items that you find in the duffels are not stackable the way that they are in filing cabinets, with the exception of the GP coins and a few of the diaries that I found. However, I only found like 1 or 2 throughout the entire run. Again, I do want to go over the quest items that you can find. The fuel conditioner that you're looking for a ragman pretty consistently pops up in these duffels, so I definitely think that this is one of the good ways to find those items. However, the car batteries that you look for when you're doing the therapist task, I only got 3. So that is a little bit of a lower chance than you would want. I'd still recommend looting them if you're beside them, but I probably wouldn't run across the map farming only the duffels for car batteries, just because you're probably not going to get them as often as you think. A few of the early game food items that you need can also be found in these duffels. I did find a few of those that might be worth looting the duffel if you're beside it. Again, it wasn't worth like farming only duffels, but if you're beside one, it might be worth checking for the Iskras and the Amelias, things like that, as well as the cigarettes. The data collection and the data entry for this took about 25 hours. I do enjoy providing this type of information to the Tarkov community to allow everyone to farm what they need with the correct measured expectations. With that being said, if you enjoyed the video, please like and let me know down below what you liked, your thoughts, or what you'd like me to do next. If you'd like to follow these videos as I complete them, I recommend subscribing and turning on the notification bell so you can receive these as they are released. I do really appreciate all of the support and positive feedback I've received on these videos, and I will see you in the next one, or I'll see you over on the Twitch stream if you come stop by and say hey.